Hi everyone, Angela here. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a fabric hair bun maker and holder with a slightly different method to my original video. They're really easy to use once you get the hang of it. It's a great way to use up your scrap fabric, make it to match an outfit or give as a gift. Along with scrunchies and headbands, you can add this to your hair accessories business. Watch till the end of the video where I show you how to sew the second style. I'll be using cotton fabric, a marking pen, rotary cutter, 19 gauged craft wire, my Kai scissors, clippers, a quilting ruler, wire cutters, needle nose pliers, and a knitting needle to poke out the corners. I'm also going to be using a small piece of 2-inch wide cloth tape. I'm just going to rip off a piece about 3/4 of an inch or 2 centimeters long. With my fabric right sides together, I'm first going to remove the selvage edges using my quilting ruler that has the non-slip silicone grips on it. Then cut your two pieces 4.5 inches wide by 15 inches long or 11.4 centimeters wide by 38 centimeters long. Separate your top piece and fold it with wrong sides together, matching the outside edges, and make a crease down the center with your fingers. Open it up with the right side facing you, and then make a mark 4.5 inches in from each side along that crease. Then draw a straight line down the center between those two marks. Then put your fabric right sides together again, and then mark along that bottom edge 6 inches in from each side. This is where we'll feed our wire in. Straighten out and measure out 39 inches of your wire. Use your wire cutters to cut it. And then on one end of the wire, take your needle nose pliers, pinch the end and turn it so that you have a nice flat rounded end. With your fabric right sides together, we'll be starting our stitching from this bottom mark using a 3/8 of an inch or 1 centimeter seam. If you have a hard time seeing the markings on your throat plate or you're a beginner sewer, you can use one of these magnetic edge guides to help you sew your seam. Something else you can use is just a small length of foam tape. Start your stitching by back tacking, and when you get close to the corner, stop your stitching about 3/8 of an inch or 1 centimeter before the edge. Have your needle down, lift your foot, pivot your fabric, put your foot down, and continue stitching. And repeat this for all the corners. If you're enjoying this video, make sure to like, share, subscribe, turn on all of your notifications, and leave a comment below. To finish this seam, back tack at this other mark, and then trim all the threads. To turn the fabric right side out, put both your thumbs through the opening and gather the fabric towards the corner. Flip the seam allowances one way and then the other, holding it with your finger. Push it out with your finger and thumb. The corner should be pretty square when you fold the fabric like that. Then repeat for each corner and pull the rest of the fabric through. If the corners are still not square enough, just gently poke them with the point of the knitting needle. Next, we're going to center the seams and give it a press all around, making sure to match the folds at that little opening. Next, I'm going to swap my foot for my buttonhole attachment. And I'm also going to put it on the widest setting for a buttonhole. We're basically going to be sewing a super long buttonhole down the center of the fabric between the marks. Now my domestic sewing machine here is pretty basic with a 4-step buttonhole. I'm only going to be using 2 of the steps to make this super long buttonhole. With the attachment pushed all the way forward, match the center of it with your line. Start by sewing a few stitches across the top. Then you're going to switch to the second step of the buttonhole and stitch down to the right of the center line. When you get close to the end of the opening, have your needle down and in the fabric and push the attachment forward again, lining up the center with the line. Continue doing this until you get to the mark at the end of the line. At the mark, switch back to your first step and stitch a few stitches across. With your needle down, lift the attachment and pivot your fabric right around. Now with your attachment up and the needle out of the fabric, you're just going to move the fabric slightly over to the left so that the stitching is going to be on the right of that line again. Continue stitching and pushing the attachment forward. The reason why I don't use the other steps for the buttonhole is because I don't want it to go in reverse. It's much easier to control the stitching when it's coming at you, and you can make sure that the stitching is not going on top of each other. We need to keep that space in between the stitching to cut the hole. Switch back to the first step again to do a few more stitches across. Pull your fabric out and trim all your threads. To cut the buttonhole, I just fold the fabric a little bit, snip between the stitching, making sure not to cut any of the threads. You can also do this by placing 2 pins at each end and cutting through with a seam ripper. Now this next step is completely optional, but I like to do another buttonhole on top of this first one so that the stitching is going to wrap around the edges and it just gives it a more substantial look. If you have any special satin stitches on your sewing machine, you can use that too. Once done, trim off all your threads and any of the loose cotton from the fabric. If you wanted to, you could use a product called Fray Check or Fray Stop. This one's called Fray Stop Glue. All you need to do is just put a thin line of it along the back of the buttonhole to keep the fabric from fraying. Switch back to your standard foot and a straight stitch setting. We're going to top stitch 1/2 inch from the edge all around, starting on the side with the opening. Follow the markings on your throat plate or use a guide. Back tack at the start and finish of your stitching and pivot 1/2 inch from the edge on all the corners. Take the turned end of your wire and thread it through the opening. Push your fabric at the corners and the wire threads through easily. Keep straightening your fabric while you push the wire through. When the wire comes through the opening again, stretch out your fabric and pull at the corners. Overlap your wire about 1.5 inches and cut off the excess. Use your needle nose pliers to turn the other end in. Now grab your little piece of tape and wrap it tightly around the wire, covering both of the ends. Next, push the wire inside the fabric so that the tape is going to end up near the corner. This way we won't have any bulk near the opening where we need to stitch it closed. Remove your edge guide and if you can, position your needle to the left. Match the folds of the opening and edge stitch it closed, back tacking at the start and finish of your stitch line. To make a pointed end with the same size pieces, fold one end in half and mark the center. Trace out a curve on one side to the center mark. Fold your fabric lengthwise in half, matching all your edges, and then fold in half again. And then cut out the curved sides through all the layers. Open up your fabric and make the same markings as you did for the square one. Cut your wire 33 inches this time and stitch again with a 3/8 of an inch or 1 centimeter seam allowance, pivoting at the corners. Turn right side out, pushing the corners through again, and use your fingers to try and spread out the seam allowance on the inside where the curves are. Center the seams and give it a press all around. Stitch your long buttonhole, cut through the middle of the fabric, and then if you want, re-stitch the buttonhole again. Top stitch all around, 1/2 inch from the edge. Thread in your wire and then edge stitch the opening closed. To make a hair bun, slip your hair through the center opening, flip the fabric once and slide it about halfway down your hair. Turn it under several times and bring the ends of the fabric together. Twist the ends into a bow, and this will keep your hair neatly in place. Thanks again for watching. Make sure to check out some of my other videos. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and turn on all of your notifications. Until next time, happy sewing!